Over? Did you say over? Nothing is over until we decide it is.
Looks like we're experiencing technical difficulty, but don't worry, folks. We're still on the air.
That's right. That Nerd Show is still on the air, and after a 3-month absence from the spring, we are finally back with our podcast series. So, nerds, fans, we got a lot to talk about. We've got games, we've got movie news. We're talking Star Wars, and we have a little bit of movie reviews. News like, should you really see The Mummy with Tom Cruise? So stick around with us. We got a full 2-hour show. I'm Marcus Blake, one of your hosts, and with me as always is Brendan.
How are you, everybody? Welcome back.
A little bit later, we're going to be having Joshua. We're going to have Joshua Sherman joining us, and we're actually going to throw in a little science news for you guys out there. But before we get to everything, we have a little editorial news. The very first thing that we have to mention is yet another nerd icon passed away this weekend, and Adam West is no longer with us. And this one ranks up there with Carrie Fisher because there's 2 generations that grew up with Adam West as Batman. You know, whether you are a fan of that slapstick or not, or you're like Brendan and I, kids when the Dark Batman came out. Adam West has been so much a part of our lives, and from the convention circuit and getting to meet him and stuff, it's just a very sad day.
And don't forget, a whole generation got introduced to him through Family Guy.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, he was Mayor West, and I'd like to think that our ongoing little tribute is that we have part of the Batman theme as our theme song. So it's a little bit more special today as we are coming back. But, it's just very sad to have Adam West gone and stuff. And if you want a little funny, if you're a Batman fan and want a little funny thing to do, you could go to YouTube and search window scenes from the Batman series and try to guess all of the celebrities. If you are a young person, like in your younger 30s or in your 20s, it might be very hard. If you're older, you might actually get some of the pop culture references from the 60s. So, anyway, rest in peace, Adam West and Mayor West. You will be missed. So, a little bit of other editorial news is we have a new format for our podcast series. We are breaking up our podcast into seasons, and today starts the summer series, which will be running through the middle of August. The reason is we stay very busy in the spring, from film festivals to conventions, and it's very hard to do a podcast on top of everything else that we're doing in our lives. So we decided to have 3 parts of the year where we have a podcast series and have the other part, or the spring, where we are completely off, and you will see other formats where we are covering news, like interviews with celebrities and things of that nature. So, welcome to our new summer series, which we will have some summer topics and fun things to talk about. And, of course, you will get a Game of Thrones roundup because Game of Thrones is starting back up in July.
I can't.
But, I know.
Winter. It's not coming. It's here, baby.
Yeah. We're just eagerly counting down. We got like 5 weeks. 5 weeks, baby. So, and by the way, we do want to tell HBO and the writers and everything, fuck you if you make us wait till 2019 to see the last half and to finally on how it all ends. I just want to say that.
Which, by the way, actually, Game of Thrones brought up something to me in the car the other day. I'll say this real quick because I know we're chock full tonight. But so with all the screw-ups they've done trying to screw up Tom Clancy books, why hasn't HBO or one of these others taken Tom Clancy novels and just done a Jack Ryan series like Game of Thrones where one book is the entire novel? Because let's face it, Tom Clancy's books are intricate enough that you can do that.
Yeah, that is
true.
true.
Entire season of Clear and Present Danger, or Hunt for Red October, or Executive Orders. I mean, come on. And then you could have spin-offs with Rainbow Six and John Clark and Ding Chavez. This is a goldmine, people. Why aren't you on it?
Well, you're right. Game of Thrones proved that you can take a long book, break it up over 10 episodes, and make it fantastic. So, and it gives you a chance to do a lot more with Jack Ryan and actually make Jack Ryan what he is supposed to be. Not a spy, but an analyst.
Right, and delve into all those spots, those different side plots that get cut out of the movies and streamlined. There was about 6 different ships in Hunt for October that got streamlined into the USS Dallas. So,
right.
It'd just be fantastic to watch. Anyway, that's my bit. Let's move on. A big show.
Our little complaint. So, all right, we're going to get to movie and TV news and a little bit about what's going on at E3. For you gamers out there, you already know that E3 is happening this week, and there's been a lot of updates. I do want to tell everybody we are not going to go through everything that we know so far tonight, but pay close attention to our website. We are updating news daily with trailers and stuff that's being released. And next week we will be doing a full roundup of everything. So we actually have a lot more time to talk about it. So, but let's jump right into it. Two big things of exciting news for you Luther fans out there. Yes, Idris Elba is coming back. There will be a Luther season 5. I love this. I know, right? So
I love how these big actors are going back to TV after they've made it big, like going back to the series that made them big, like with Luther and Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman with
right.
Sherlock.
Yeah.
Now, granted, we're not going to get them as often as we'd like, but at least they're going back and taking care of the people who took care of them. I love to see that.
Oh, yeah. And, we were telling you guys for years on this show, I mean, if you really, truly want to see Idris Elba in his element doing, what he was meant to do, I mean, just great acting, a great character, a broken down character, Luther is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that he's not good in everything he does. I mean, whether he's in a Tyler Perry movie, which, is actually one of my favorites of his series, Daddy's Little Girls, because Idris Elba is the man. And, of course, he would be a good father. But Pacific Rim, and, of course, he's got the Dark Tower movie coming out. But, yes, Luther, one of those great BBC shows, very underrated, which is why we talk about it a lot. So, yes, there will be a season 5. Also, a little bit more casting news. For all of you people that were worried about Chris Evans and his contract with Marvel, he was contracted to do 6 Marvel movies, and that would have been up after the first or part 1 of the Infinity Wars. Well, he is actually going to be back for Infinity Wars Part 2. And he did say this week that he's coming back simply because it is the last one for him and his character wrapping it all up. That doesn't mean we're giving spoilers about what happens, but you comic book fans pretty much already know what does happen. So, but I'm glad that was put to rest, because that'd be kind of weird to only have him in one part and then disappear. Yeah, so it should be a very fitting.
Or did part 1 end with Thanos killing him? That would have been really depressing.
Right. Yeah. Because, by the way, DC, you jumped the shark way too early on Superman dying. I'm just saying, and we're going to keep calling you out on that shit. But we'll get to DC later.
Yeah.
All right. Sense8. Yes, it did get canceled. That's already been reported. A lot of people have been thinking that it is going to come back because there's been a strong fan presence with petitions and stuff, but nope, didn't do the trick. Netflix says it's still gone. They wrapped it up, and really what it's coming down to is it's just too expensive to do that show for not having enough ratings that they would like. So
it fell victim to the Marco Polo syndrome, huh?
Yeah. So it was great, and I would love to see a third season. Season 2 kind of, it really expanded upon these characters as they were, they really got to know each other. But there might be one little thing where they might be able to pull off just a 2-hour movie to wrap everything up and be done with it. And that's another idea that has been, talked about. And we're going to promote that idea, because again, you shouldn't just leave everything on kind of a cliffhanger, and you did with season 2. Wrap it up. Just find a good way to wrap it up with a nice big bow. Or if you really want to do it right in protest, you should do what the Jericho fans did 10 years ago and send bags of peanuts into Netflix. So, little interesting trivia there for how Jericho got a season 2. All right, Halt and Catch Fire fans. Yes, season 4 is the final season. You may have already heard, but there's some more casting news coming out of that. Anna Klumsky, who's been on Veep the past 6 years, is joining the final season in a very important role. And if you don't know where *Halt and Catch Fire* ended, or haven't decided to get into that season, to that show yet, it is on Netflix. They basically ended season 3 on the beginnings of the internet, and people trying to figure out how to do what to do in the beginnings of building search engines and stuff. So it sounds like they're wrapping up that show pretty nicely with how it should end in the heyday of computers and the internet. But yes, Anna Klumsky will be there. The CW has announced this week all of the premiere dates for all of their big comic superhero shows. It will be the week of October 9th. So second week of October, and it's going to be every show. It's not going to be 1 week Flash and then moving on to Arrow. They're going to do everything that week and start it off on the same schedule. So there you go. Starting October 9th, pencil that in if you watch all of those shows, and get ready. So we'll see which one turns out to be the best this year, because some of them are starting to jump the shark and lose a little vitality. And I'm tired of emo Barry Allen Flash.
Yeah, anyway. He needs to back to being the happy-go-lucky guy.
Yeah.
That whole dark thing covered on Arrow. Let's keep Flash happy.
Exactly. Well, season 3 was not really it's pretty much the worst season of Flash so far. So, and season season 5 of Arrow was
awesome.
Yeah. But
so
anyway, another thing that got announced this past week, Fox 24 Legacy, or Fox canceled 24 Legacy, but they are exploring future options. So, meaning you're going to reboot 24 yet again with a new main character? I'm confused.
Because it works so well.
Yeah. I didn't hate it. I mean, it wasn't absolutely great, but I thought Corey Hawkins was actually really good, in that role.
The problem it suffered from is not Kiefer Sutherland.
And you're right.
This would be it's the same problem they had doing a reboot of Ghostbusters. Everybody thought, it's because it's a backlash because it's women. No, it's a backlash because it's a bad movie. It's got nothing to do with the fact that it's women. Wonder Woman proves that. Okay, you can have a woman in lead, and it'll do famously well if you've got a good story. But it's just, you have an iconic cast, and you're trying to replace them. It just doesn't work.
And I thought it was kind of cool having Tony Almeida out of prison, kind of being a Black Ops guy, doing his own thing and stuff, and having him connected to this. That's fine. As much as I like Tony Almeida, again, it's not Jack Bauer, and that's what you want. So if there's – and you had a golden opportunity to be able to somehow connect this to, 24 Live Another Day or whatever the hell they called it a few years ago, and to explain what happened to Jack Bauer. So if you're going to explore future options or whatever, don't just throw out what has happened with this show, even if you're not going to center it around Corey Hawkins' character. Fine, whatever, okay? But, if it really does suffer from not having the legacy guys, well, then have them all connected somehow. That's what you do.
maybe the next version is Tony Almeida's team trying to break Jack out of Chinese prison.
Well, there you go. Or wherever he went.
Yeah.
You're never going to. Hey, here's the thing, TV. You're never going to recapture the magic of the first 4 seasons, which were awesome. Okay, it just doesn't happen any more than X-Files can completely recapture the magic of the first 5 seasons of X-Files. It's nostalgic. It's fun. It gives you a little bit more life with the characters. But that's it. Okay? The best has already gone. So, anyway, here's another interesting thing, which I thought was kind of funny, because this was a movie that was coming up that we were going to be reviewing. But Amityville: The Awakening has vanished from the release schedule. Just disappeared. It was supposed to be coming out June 30th. Of course, originally it was supposed to come out late 2016, then January of 2017, then it was pushed back to the summer. But now it's, nowhere, and there's basically no release date in sight.
Sounds like somebody had some shitty things.
Yeah. Well, the trailer's been online for over a year now, so I don't really know what to think of this. So maybe we'll never get this, or maybe this will end up being like the Red Dawn remake, where it just sat on the shelves for a while, and then once it finally got released, just for the sake of releasing it, it's like, oh, it really was a shitty movie. Maybe we shouldn't have done this.
Recoup any money they can from the production.
Right. And I get that. I absolutely get that.
Maybe they're waiting for some of the actors to hit it big so they can release it later, like they did with Red Dawn.
Yeah.
It's popular now. Let's throw it out.
Right. Hey, character is Thor. Maybe he can help sell this movie. And he's like, wait, I was in that movie?
Shit. Thought they'd forgotten about that crap.
Yeah. Hey, everybody does a bad movie or two to get paid.
Hey,
Michael Caine, Jaws 4.
Yeah, but Chris Hemsworth, don't feel too bad, because from the looks of it, Thor Ragnarok is the best of the Thor movies, and it's not often you can say the third movie in the trilogy is the best. So, kudos to your team.
Right. Well, I would just say be done with it, or release it on Netflix or something like that. That's
just straight on demand.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And another thing, it was announced this week that James Gunn will help oversee Marvel's cinematic universe or cosmic universe beyond Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So I guess he will be taking the wheel over everything once they get past that in Infinity Wars. So, no problem. I think that's a good choice.
Successor to Joss Whedon.
Oh, yeah. And in case you did not know, a little bit of news about Joss Whedon. I think most people have known that Zack Snyder had to kind of leave the production to deal with some family issues with his and stuff. But Joss Whedon is helping finish up the last stuff with the Justice League movie. So anyway, and I actually thought this was kind of funny. I don't know why, but I laugh. I think it has to do with the fact that sometimes I think rock stars, there's a retirement date for rock stars. You should just stop. But it was announced this week that Alice Cooper will be coming out with a new shock. Anyway, it's a new album that he's coming out with tour dates, but there was a new song released this week called Paranoid Personality. So I'm like, is that your way of doing your autobiography? I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah. But yes, Alice Cooper is coming out with another album. So we'll see if that's any good. There's just sometimes that's the thing with rock metal guys, hard rockers and everything. You go beyond your expiration date. So I hate to say it, Metallica kind of did, but
Look at Ozzy. It's way past his expiration date.
Yeah.
Ozzy's past Keith Richards' expiration date, which is like, if you look on the pack, it says like MRE. Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah. Okay, and one more piece of casting news. Nathan Fillion and Tony Hale will be joining a series of unfortunate events. We don't know who they're going to be playing yet, but they will be in the next season. So I actually might enjoy more a series of unfortunate events. I didn't care much for the first season, so might be one of those seasons. It might be one of those shows that just gets better. So we'll see. Oh, and one more piece of news: Hannah John Kamen will be cast in the Ant-Man and Wasp movie. Now, we don't know exactly who she is, but they are reporting that she plays a key role in the upcoming sequel. So, comic book geeks out there, we'll leave that for you to figure out. And if you have an answer, go ahead and tweet it out to us at That Nerd Show. We'd like to know your take on it. Okay, getting to some gaming news. Like I said, we're not going to run through every little detail of E3, but because it just started, and we've been bombarded with trailers and whatnot the past week or the past weekend. I will at least start with Bethesda, who came out with what they called their 4 big announcements, from E3. And the main one is we are getting a new Wolfenstein game for next year, which, for those of you that are fans of that series, there will be another one coming out for, newer console systems. And I do believe that game will be available for, I guess, whatever the Xbox Scorpio or whatever. The Xbox One.
They just left it the Scorpio, but it's the Xbox One X. But they should have just left it bloody Scorpio. But I don't know. We'll talk about that next Monday.
Yeah, I don't really know what's up with that, and really the only thing that's going to be is just a little bit of a faster engine. Your games are still going to be able to play on Xbox One, and it's, anyway.
It's just a hardware upgrade.
Yeah, that's all it is. But anyway, there will be a new Wolfenstein game, and it will be set in the USA. So what it is it's called it's a sequel to, it's called The New Colossus. It's a sequel to Wolfenstein: The New Order, set in 1961 America, and featuring a cast of pulp movie archetypes. If you want to shoot Nazis in a video game this year, or maybe this is a good way to do it according to them. And I apologize, I was incorrect on the date. The New Colossus will actually be coming out October 27th of this year. So, there you go. I'm actually a little excited about that. I like the Wolfenstein games. So, the other one, there will be a new standalone chapter in Dishonored. So if you're a fan of Dishonored, the chapter you will be putting players in the shoes of antagonist Dodd and his protege Billy Lurk. There are some standalone set in the universe apparently after the events of Dishonored 2. Lurk and Dodd are back, and they are teaming up to kill the Outsider, an emo folk deity who has driven the events of the series so far, and that is launching September 15th.
I'm gonna call this out here. They just used emo and folk and then deity in the same sentence, to describe the character. Emo, folk, deity. I've been in folk culture a long time, especially Irish folk, and I'm not familiar with any emo folk culture. Little Lord, do we need an emo deity of any kind? I like what Bethesda does. The Dishonored games are really cool, but could we have come up with a better god? I'm just saying.
Yeah.
As my god. Okay, they made good music in the 90s, but really?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, I guess what Dishonored is supposed to be, it's the majority of the fun is each chapter in quest of, trying to find that person, only to be kind of let down once you get to the end. But that doesn't mean that Dishonored 2 wasn't a great game. It was our game of the year last year. So it should be a fun little chapter. Doom and Fallout will be in virtual reality. Apparently that's still happening. Doom VFR is apparently a standalone in the virtual reality shooter for the HTC Vive and PlayStation VR. It will look similar to the early... apparently that's still happening. There was some rumors that it may not, but anyway, it's supposed to be a little bit more polished than what has previously been seen, and of course a VR version of Fallout 4, as in the full open world game on a VR headset. There's no official release dates yet. So I think we are going to start to see a lot of these legacy, what we call legacy games now, because like Rise of the Tomb Raider, got released again for the newer console systems, and it was available for VR on the PlayStation. So there you go. And I don't know, I'm actually kind of interested in Doom and VR. We don't have VR yet. We haven't gotten to that point because it's actually expensive. but I don't know. I mean, that actually sounds kind of interesting.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. Yeah. That's the big debate right there. And I will tell our audience right off the bat, yes, we have jobs. We don't have kids. Okay, but the VR stuff is very expensive. It really is, especially if you're buying 2 sets to play with friends. I mean, you're basically dropping $1,000. Okay.
And here's the other thing of that. To me, VR is the same as 3D movies. Call me when we get to Call of Suites. Until then, I don't fucking care. When I can go to $5 down, going to and fight Fallout in Star Trek holodecks, that's when I'll give a shit. Until then,
yeah. I mean, I do want to play Star Trek Bridge Crew. I think it looks amazing, but at the same time, I'm not dropping $1,000 just to play with my buddies on that. I mean, we have other important things to do in life, like brew beer. So, also,
and drink beer.
Yeah, exactly.
And if I bought shit, I wouldn't be able to afford to drink beer for like 2 months.
Exactly. So, it's called priorities with us. For me though, it's also about, putting money where it needs to go, like finally buying the Nintendo Switch so we could play a little, Zelda. And still haven't really gotten around to that because there's so much other stuff, but that is something that we do want to, try it and all that, because we don't know if it's going to be truly successful or be the end of Nintendo. But I've heard a lot of good things about from fans and stuff about the new Zelda, and I figure that's a little bit more of a priority than VR. So, last thing that Bethesda announced this week was Evil Within 2. It's a sequel to Resident Evil creator Shinji Mikami's 2014 game. In the broad strokes, the original protagonist, Sebastian Castellanos, is searching for his daughter in a surreal nightscape. But you need to, watch the trailer, see what's going on. But yes, there will Evil Within 2, which we kind of knew was happening. And they have what they call scary milk faces that look very similar to what you might have seen in Westworld if you watched Westworld on HBO this year. So there you go. That's their big news. Now, we were talking about it earlier. What was some of the other things besides all the trailers that got announced?
Well, I haven't really seen anything but trailers yet because I haven't had a chance to sit down and watch because yesterday and today have been crazy for me. But some of the things that have caught my eye just from the trailers are Ace Combat 7 because I've loved that series for a very long time. It's probably the best dogfighting series out there. Kingdom Hearts finally getting a full trailer. That's definitely caught my eye. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, though. Also, the 2 sailing games that have been out. There's one called Skull and Bones. and getting handed notes. Let's see, Marvel versus. Okay, let's say just getting breaking news here. Marvel versus Capcom Infinite just shown. Story demo will be available for download. That was our producer, who is my lovely wife, and so that was our just breaking news at the conference that she's watching right now. But so the Skull and Bones really caught my eye. There's another one out there that I pardon me, but I forget the name because I just saw a glimpse of it that looked really cool. Another like sea combat one. I'm trying to find it right now.
There's something about pirates.
Yeah, that's Skull and Bones. But there's another. Well, I think they're both actually might be pirate themes, but. Anyway, I can't find the other one right now, so it's not important, but we'll talk about it next week. Johnny Gat from the. Oh God, my brain is not working. The crazy versions of Grand Theft Auto. What the hell is the name of that series? Saints Row. Sorry, Johnny Gat from Saints Row is being given his own game. It's called Agents of Mayhem Johnny Gat. So that looks kind of cool because everything they do is ridiculously stupid and funny. And then the last thing I'm going to touch on real quick is Anthem, the new game from BioWare, which is an open-world online game where you're playing these exosuits and you get different exosuits. So if you want to play as a ranger, you can be a ranger. If you want to be as a colossus, which is like a tank, you can do that. That looks fantastic. And I just saw there's a new Assassin's Creed game called Origins, which I have to look at. I haven't even seen yet, so that has obviously piqued my interest as well. So whole lot going on in the last 24 hours, and we will have more for you on it in depth. I will have a list of games that really piqued my interest after I'm able to deep dive into it this weekend, and we will have all of that for you on next Monday's show.
Right, yeah. Like I said, we will give a full roundup once we know everything. But yes, just keep watching our site as new stuff gets dropped. Trailers, we're keeping up with it. But of course, I mean, there's between YouTube and all that, we're viewing the live conference as well, even while we're on the podcast. So if there is any hardcore breaking news while we are doing this podcast, even during our theme show, we will definitely let you know what's going on. I mean, we are full service here. I do want to say a couple of things, and we will talk more in depth about it, obviously, next week. But the Star Wars Battlefront game has actually dropped 2 trailers. One, for the story, talking about their new single-player campaign and the story and, of a character from, after Return of the Jedi up to The Force Awakens. But they also dropped a little bit more about the multiplayer, between using, legacy characters and stuff like that. No word yet. I don't think they're going to go the route like they did with the first Battlefront, where you got like a so-so game and then, it was $60 for each expanded pack. I know there's going to be some additional stuff, especially if you want, the Last Jedi outfits and get to see those early within the game before the movie comes out. But it looks to be a full-service game right at $60-70 with everything that you can do. And so far from what we've seen, this is the Star Wars game we should have had 2 years ago. It absolutely looks amazing and looks just a lot of fun from the 2 trailers. So, and by the way, I want to point out, I've never really thought about playing Yoda against Darth Maul, but after seeing the trailer, I'm like, please give me. I want that. That looks awesome. So.
Yeah, but after watching this season of Star Wars Rebels, that's not much of a fight.
No, not really. Maybe, well, that's what video games are for. So it's all about the user. But yeah, needless to say, we're very excited about this year's Battlefront. It will be one of the big games that we're reviewing and playing and getting involved in, multiplayer and stuff. So. Most games don't drop 2 big, huge trailers, but they have with this. And I think honestly, I think that's a lot of trying to make up for rushing a game just to be out for The Force Awakens 2 years ago, which really just wasn't. It's fun, but it wasn't worth $60, maybe $30.
Yeah, it was a deal.
The best, right. the best parts of Battlefront 1 really are doing like co-op with a friend or your kids or whatever, like the survival modes or the battles and stuff like that. That's really it. So, anyway, one other trailer I wanted to mention because it was dropped last week was we got the full story trailer of Shadows of War, the sequel to Shadows of Mordor. And, you know, I've been saying all year that Horizon Zero Dawn is our game of the year, and nothing has come out yet to rival it. I think it's going to have some competition. Shadows of War just looks amazing. We got,
yeah.
I don't know where we're going to find all this time in the fall to play these games, but we will. So.
Going to have to get more interns.
Yeah, we're going to have to get more interns. So there you go. We have some interns out. If you want to intern and play video games with us, then there you go. That's really what's going on in major news so far. And like I said, we'll be updating you on E3 as more news is coming out. Although I do want to do one quick gaming review of something that came out in the last month. Alex Moore and I did a review on the game Prey a while back, and you can go and find out how we rated it. We both gave it a 9 out of 10. It's a great game. But for the combat games and being able to duel with friends, Injustice 2 was released May 16th. And if you read my article, I got to participate in a GameStop in-store little tournament. Got my ass handed to me by a 13-year-old kid who has nothing to do in life but play video games. But still, the game, amazing, better than the first. I'm not always crazy about the uniforms, but the gameplay is fun, and it's worth getting and dueling with your friends if you want to get something different than Mortal Kombat, which we never really get tired of Mortal Kombat. You just kind of want to go on to other things. But yes, that was the big game that really got released in May, and worth the price. It's a lot of fun. Story mode is pretty amazing. So anyway, if I had to give that game a final grade, I mean, it's not perfect, but I definitely would give it an 8 out of 10. A lot of fun. Anyway, all right, moving right along, we've got some reviews between movies, TV shows, and things that have come out. I'm going to start with the movie The Mummy, which was the big movie that came out this past weekend. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, it's not worth the price of a full price movie ticket. Not at all. Maybe a cheap matinee or the dollar theater. So it's just not really that good of a movie. It's fun. It's got action, but trying to revive classic monster movies and give it the, Michael Bay type of treatment with lots of action and A-list stars just didn't really. It was predictable.
I mean, this is a movie. Yeah. We're not even talking about rebooting a movie from 40, 50, 60 years ago. We're talking about rebooting a movie that we saw after high school.
Yeah.
I was in the military when The Mummy came out. This is my adult life that is now being remade, and I'm only 38, folks. So, it's not that long ago. And you're rebooting it already? Like, I can get, I can't even get Frankenstein because we already had, we had De Niro Stein. You'll look at me. Look at me. So, I got bolts in my neck. I'm electric and scary. Ooh. Anyway, but we've already done all these movies in our adult lifetime. So this dark universe they're trying to come up with is Universal. Everybody can't be Marvel, okay? DC's got a shot to pull it off because Wonder Woman has pulled their ass out of the fire, and they did a great job with that movie.
Well, let's not get to our this week's Out of the Apocalypse yet. We'll get there, but I understand what you're where you're going with it.
But not everybody can have this connected universe. So, and look, these properties are already loosely, only tangentially connected anyway. It's not like they have any real common sense. So I don't know what Universal. I know exactly what Universal do. Some suit said, "Hey, let's copy them because they were successful."
Right. All right, I'm going to bring Joshua Sherman back up with us. Finally, Joshua, you're back.
I am. Thank you for your patience.
Hey, we understand. So, after we get done with the reviews, we're actually going to do some little science news from our science guy. Some things that are happening out in the world that we think you ought to know about. So, but we'll get to that in a moment. But anyway, if I have to give a grade to The Mummy, it's a 6. It's adequate. But again, I wouldn't have paid like $12 or $15 to go see it in the theater. And what happens to Tom Cruise at the end is just predictable. I mean, there's just like, come on. And honestly, if you love The Mummy as like a monster, there's nothing wrong with, Mummy 1 and 2 with Brendan Fraser. Not the third one, obviously. But, those 2 movies with Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz were fun movies.
They were.
Yeah. So, still would go watch them again. Anyway, yeah, just The Mummy, just didn't really do anything for me. But hey, whatever. I guess it's you know what it reminded me of? It's like that Van Helsing movie with Hugh Jackman and Kate Beckinsale. Couldn't remember her name.
Yeah.
Like, you watched it once, and it's like, yeah, it was kind of entertaining, but I'll never watch this again because it's not worth my time. That's how I felt about The Mummy.
The movie was the guy that played the monk, who was also the Teller Spartan in 300. Forget the actor's name. Forget.
Tim Arnold Oswald?
Is that his name?
What was it?
Mummy are y'all on, the first one or the second one?
Oh no, he's talking about the new Mummy.
Oh, okay, yeah. I haven't seen that one yet, I'm happy to say.
Don't bother.
Yeah, not worth it.
I don't like it.
Yeah, see it for free.
That's
how I look at it. Yeah.
But it'll cost my space in my case.
There you go. A couple of indie movies that have come out over the past couple of weeks or so, as I wanted to mention another movie about Winston Churchill. Ron Cox from Braveheart and Super Troopers was playing Churchill. And the story is centered around Churchill around the D-Day invasion as, basically not really being able to do anything, and being tormented the fact that he can't lead people in the battle or can't go onto the beach and, warring with, Dwight Eisenhower because he's not really in charge. And it was an interesting movie, but there are 2 big things that I have to say that I thought was kind of its downfall, and it was really casting more than anything else. Ron Cox, we've had so many different people play Winston Churchill, and I don't have anything against Ron Cox per se as an actor. He is great, especially when he's actually doing Scottish roles. But he just did not really pull off Churchill like other people have. In fact, I was mentioning this to someone who, we were a fellow critic, and we were talking about all the people that have played Churchill, and I still think Brendan Gleeson has done the best job so far. And if you remember, he did the movie The Coming Storm, which was a little bit more about his life. Anyway, he was good, but just not really good enough, and the whole movie just felt like jumping into like he's visiting a psychiatrist and having to relive all of his memories. It's like, or a bad Christmas Carol version with Winston Churchill. I can tell you I will probably never watch it again. It was entertaining on some levels, good, but just didn't make it. To me, the weakest spot was they had John Slattery playing Dwight Eisenhower, and if you remember, he played, he was in Mad Men. So again, that's another thing is we've had different people play Dwight Eisenhower who have kind of nailed the part. Tom Selleck being one of them.
Yeah, he did a great job.
Absolutely. John Slattery, as good of an actor as he is, and I've liked him in a lot of things, including Mad Men, he just No, it just didn't work. He didn't bring anything to Dwight Eisenhower whatsoever. Didn't even really look like him. They didn't even take the time to show that he was balding. That's how sloppy they were with trying to do the movie. At least they made Tom Selleck look like Dwight Eisenhower, when he did it. So
right.
This movie, if it had had better casting, better people to fit the part, then I think the movie would have been a little bit better. So, nothing against these actors. They're good in other things. It's just I don't think these were the roles that were right for them. But, I mean, I don't understand why they didn't get John Lithgow to play Churchill for this movie, because he has been nailing it on the Crown series on Netflix. He's actually been one of the bright spots of that series.
Maybe a contraction in there.
No, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, Churchill, it gets a 5 for me because it just really wasn't that good. The other movie that I wanted to let people know about is there was a movie called Band-Aid. It's the first feature by Zoe Lister-Jones, who you've seen her around in movies, but she is one of the ensemble cast on that show on CBS, Life in Pieces. And the whole premise of this movie is about a married couple who are dealing with a miscarriage. They had a miscarriage, and they're fighting and going at each other, and they decide to put all of their fights into songs and perform as kind of their own therapy. And then you mix in Fred Armisen, who basically is playing one of his many characters from Portlandia as their neighbor, who is the drummer in their little band. Very heartwarming, funny film. The lyrics and the songs were fantastic. For her first time out of doing something like this, she just nailed it. The pacing was great. Even the very serious moments and very emotional moments in the movie worked. And like I said, the music and how they did everything just was fantastic. So, and it might be a lesson out there to some married couples who, instead of throwing things at each other, put your songs into music and play in a band. So there you go. I actually gave that movie a 9 out of 10 just as as an indie pick. And Bloodline Season 3 dropped a few weeks ago during Memorial Day. Now, I don't know, have you had a chance to catch up on that yet, Brendan?
No, I got to be honest. Bloodline, it lost me in the first season. I got through about 7 episodes, and I just couldn't finish it. And I had to. I mean, let's face it. I don't have a ton of time to watch TV. So what I pick, I'm very selective on. And
right.
I wanted to like it. It had a good pedigree. It had actors I like. It just moved so laboriously slow that I just couldn't keep up with it. It was just
right. Joshua, is that one that you have watched on Netflix?
No, sir, I haven't. I like Brendan. I tend to keep a very tight schedule with the shows that I watch.
No, and I think we're all that way. I mean, there's just so much out there we pick and choose. I started with it. I did love the first season. Second season wasn't as good, and I'm glad that they wrapped it up, because it would have been bad if they had tried to keep this show going like 4 or 5 seasons. But season 3 really is, about dealing with it's dealing with the after effects of everything from, covering up the brother's death to his son popping up to, the other idiot brother, spoiler, but killing the cop who's on to him, and what to do with that, and then pinning that on somebody else. So really season 3 was all about, it was really about the main character played by Kyle Chandler having to come face to face with everything, as he's like the sole, this is it, I've kind of lost my family, my sister has run away and doesn't want to face anything, and my brother is into more shit that's going to land him in jail. And it's a very, very nice scene about because you introduce the dead brother's son, who wants to know the truth, but it's a very nice scene of towards the end of he just wants the truth, and he wants the siblings to face up to what they did and to face the consequences. So it's, kind of ends with him walking out and about to tell him what really happened and why. Is this very cathartic moment, like confession. So it was good. It was a great way to wrap it up. That's how I would look at it. They probably could have done it in less episodes, but they did 10 episodes. Well, I'm sorry, they did 12, and I think the first season they did 13. They only did 10 the second, and so like I said, you get about 35 episodes to kind of tell this story. And I think the first season we actually rated it. I believe it was an 8 or 9 out of 10. And the second season was just, it was really just okay. And that's how I would say this third season is. I think if you're a fan of that show, you should absolutely finish it. I don't think the ending is at all bad. I think it's very poignant for, what they're dealing with. But, and at least one of them is going to go to jail for something they did. They're not going to completely get away with it scot-free. But it's also about, everything that they have lost and why, and of course bringing out more of the family history and stuff. Ben Mendelsohn was very good in, because he's basically, kind of like a ghost haunting his brother and having conversations, with his brother. And they had him in there, not a whole lot, but I think they had him in there for a few episodes, to kind of wrap it up. And let's face it, that whole show, to be quite honest, the strength of the performances of the entire series really were Kyle Chandler and Ben Mendelsohn. So, of course, my biggest complaint always of Bloodline is friend of the show, Glenn Morshower, playing a bad guy, and I just don't like to see him as a bad guy. Just, nope. Friendly father, general, but no, not a bad guy. Can't do it. It's not believable. So, anyway.
Especially if you know him personally, such a nice guy. It's like as good of an actor as he is, just sitting there going, I've spoke to you many times. You're such a sweet, generous, caring individual.
Right.
It's just, I just can't, it doesn't compute.
Yeah, I know. But just can't see you doing that. But no, I mean, he was good in the first season and the first half of the second season. So, but anyway, we did want to talk about Bloodline ending and the last season overall. If I gave it a grade, it would just be a 7. So, but ended very nicely for what it is and stuff like that. So, one other thing before we move right along, because we are running out of time in the first half of the show. I want everybody to keep this on your radar out there. The very first Texas screening was done last night at the Oak Cliff Film Festival, which we covered, and we saw a ghost story with Casey Affleck and Rooney Mara. And it's a very poignant story about a ghost kind of haunting his home, but the ghost is a white sheet, and it's just the whole idea is about kind of traveling through time and coming full circle, and being attached to something and not being able to let go, and with all the characters. So it was shot here in Irving, Texas, and Fort Worth. It was shot under the radar, very secretive, by the director who directed a remake of Pete's Dragon, who lives here in Texas. And there's a lot of familiar local Texas actors, friends of our show that we've known and interviewed that were in the movie. So it's getting a lot of rave reviews. It's already got like 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. But it will start to get its wider releases next month. But I did want to mention, we'll get you a full review for it later, but I wanted to at least mention that with our movies, that's what's going on. Okay. Before we get to this week's Sign of the Apocalypse, Joshua, we we do news about science. There's things happening out in the world. Tell our audience one big thing that's happening in the science world that everybody should be aware of.
Yes, well, as almost everyone in our country is aware, our president made the very interesting move to leave the Paris Climate Accord, which rubs some of his fans one way and the rest of us a very different way. One of the cool things about this particular incident where our president's concerned is that it's actually given a lot of people, especially in our country, a lot of states I should say, this sense of, okay, well, just because our country doesn't want to move forward with a very forward-moving climate agreement on an international level, a lot of states are kind of saying, we'll support Paris even if our president doesn't. And seeing that kind of solidarity for environmental sciences is actually kind of moving in a humanistic sense.
I agree. It's about time we get it right. But is there anything else?
Well, I was just saying also the way we should be done, too, because if the states want to enact these laws, that's their business. The federal government shouldn't be forcing it onto them one way or the other. So if the states want to do it, great, more power to them. If they don't want to do it, then, you know, somebody in Washington shouldn't be forcing somebody in Michigan to do something or against their will, nor should, you know, but if somebody in Hawaii or somebody in California wants to do that, then, yeah, absolutely. That's the whole reason why we are a union of independent states. So,
right.
But,
so is there anything that has come out of this, I mean, about new technology or anything that people should be aware of in regards to how we're going to combat, you know, climate change and stuff?
So that's a good question. It's got some interesting answers to it. A lot of people want to sit there and blame a lot of our climate change almost exclusively on mankind's carbon footprint, whether it's the carbon monoxide that comes out of our cars or the stuff that our coal plants produce. And one of the things that I've come to understand is that our climate change actually has a little more to it than humankind's carbon footprint. One thing that we definitely need to work on more, and there's actually plans by NASA engineers to do something about this, only, interestingly enough, their plan is to aim it at Mars and not us first, which I think that's kind of silly. But what they want to do is basically create our own synthetic, or if you will, artificial electromagnetosphere. The one that we have right now that the Earth produces naturally is shifting, and there's evidence of that, and that shifting of the poles is weakening the strength of our electromagnetosphere. The weaker that sphere gets, the more susceptible to sun rays and whatnot that we become. So one of the technologies that's currently in plans by NASA is to put together an instrument that can produce a synthesized electromagnetic field, if you will, to keep us continually shaded from the harmful UV rays.
Well, I think that's a great plan, but if this turns out like Highlander 2, I'm done.
I'm pretty sure NASA has better engineers than that, but
okay, all right, good to know. No, but I think that's interesting, and I think that's something that we'll probably, you know, do more news on and write about and stuff. But we are doing a lot more with science, as you have seen at That Nerd Show, educational stuff, by posting news and, you know, writing original content. So that is your science news for this podcast. All right, before we move into the second half of the show, and you'll be good, nice, because we've had so much going on, we're not even going to be doing commercial breaks. But we have to get to this week's Sign of the Apocalypse, which really was meant to be last week, but we'll do this week because it's still going strong. DC finally got it right with a movie. I'm not joking. That's not a joke. That actually did happen. And I think many of our fans already know that and have seen this movie. The Wonder Woman movie has kicked butt. It's good. It's not as dark and crazy and convoluted as a Zack Snyder film. I think it's been everything that we've wanted in an origin story, you know, flowing nicely into, you know, the rise of a hero. And it pretty much looks like it just could be the saving grace for the DC cinematic universe. So that's why it becomes this week's Sign of the Apocalypse, because after 2 movies, we were a little skeptical. We didn't think this could actually happen. We were very worried. And Wonder Woman nailed it. So, have you guys had a chance to see it yet?
Yes, I have. And it was awesome. And all I got to kudos to Patty Jenkins. She did a wonderful job directing. And I will say that it surprised me how real the chemistry was between Gal Gadot and Chris Pine, because there was an interview that Gal Gadot did with Chris Pine that is now turned into a GIF, because basically, to quote a friend of mine, Gal Gadot looks at Chris Pine like I look at a bacon cheeseburger. She was staring at him, and she licked her lips and bit her lips while she was staring at him, and then realized what she did on camera, and she had this like sheepishly embarrassed look where she looks down and away. And it was like, she's thinking, I want me some of that.
Yeah.
I mean,
no,
you're living your life if you have a god lusting after you.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was.
Well, I've always thought of Gal Gadot as a god anyway. She's just absolutely gorgeous. And
Cheers.
For all of the people that complained when she got cast as, Wonder Woman, like, she's too skinny, or, we don't know enough about her, I'm like, I think she proved everybody wrong on that. I
haven't seen it, but I would agree with you.
Yeah.
And then there was, this was my favorite. They're like, because somebody was complaining that they changed her outfit so it doesn't have the American motif, and which is understandable. But then they were like, don't you know the Amazons is just America, and don't you know that this is the Amazonians from Greek mythology that predates the naming of the Amazon region in South America by about 1,000 years.
Right.
Yeah, for being a bigot, knowing your history.
You mean things over here got named for things over there when we were colonizing this side of the world? Say it ain't so.
Shocking.
You mean the word America didn't come from the map maker of Amerigo Vespucci, who pretty much mapped the western coast? Say it ain't so. We like to enlighten our listeners out there. Mostly, but we know most of our listeners already know these things. It's for the hicks that might stumble upon our show and might actually want to learn something.
Yeah.
You're giving those hicks a lot of credit.
I know, exactly. But yeah, we had to throw this into this week's Out of the Apocalypse just because Wonder Woman nailed it. I mean, we pretty much gave it a 9 across the board. It wasn't absolutely perfect. I mean, it dragged a little bit in the third act, and I think that was the biggest complaint by everybody. But from the beginning to up to that point, everything flowed nicely. The chemistry was great. The humor, and, Chris Pine just absolutely nailed it as Steve Trevor. And although we still want him around a lot more, but then again, we understand. And I think we just honestly, we can't wait to see the next Wonder Woman movie or see her in the Justice League. So there's a little hope in this DC cinematic universe that
and
Justice League.
He finally got a villain that's not a full-on orphan.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah. Anyway. Oh, by the way, I do have one little minor complaint. You can't release season 5 of House of Cards and let everybody watch that during the week of Wonder Woman, because I got confused with Robin Wright. I kept seeing Claire Underwood kicking butt, and I don't think that's what I was meant to see. And then someone
seeing Princess Buttercup.
Yeah. That's what somebody reminded me, like, no, it's Buttercup all grown up. Like, fair enough. That's a much better image. So, anyway, if you haven't seen Wonder Woman yet, shame on you. Go see it. If you've only seen it once, go see it again, because it is worth the money. All right. We are going to move right along into the second half of this show. It has been a while since we've done a Star Wars roundup. Obviously, in the spring, there's always lots of things that get released, and we'll probably always do this in the summer, once things have kind of settled a little bit. We finally got a trailer for The Last Jedi, which we knew would be released at Star Wars Celebration. There's a lot going on there, a lot of questions. We're going to get to that. A lot of discussion. But we wrapped up Season 3 of Star Wars Rebels, which we haven't really had a chance to talk about that. And, of course, it was announced that Season 4 will be the final season. So it's time to talk Star Wars. And if you're out there listening on the interwebs and everything, and if you got a comment or question about Star Wars, you can call in at 914-338-1109. We'd like to hear from you. If you're just an internet troll, we don't really want to hear from you, but continue to listen to our show. So we're gonna jump in with the very first thing, Star Wars Rebels, because that's the title, From Star Wars Rebels to The Last Jedi. And Season 3 was big, a lot happened, and we're going to get right down to it. Now, I do want to ask Joshua, are you caught up on Star Wars Rebels Season 3, or do you not mind spoilers? Because we are going to spoil.
I don't mind spoilers. Let them rip.
Okay.
Yeah, let them rip.
All right. Don't let this deter you from not going to watch this show.
That wouldn't happen. Don't worry. You go about it. Go on.
Okay. All right. We know that Star Wars Season 3 was really good, but I'm going to ask this question to you, Brendan. What was your biggest complaint of Season 3? Let's start with that first.
Oh, that's a good question. I didn't have many, to be honest.
I have one big one, but we'll start with you.
I think maybe just that I think the Rebels should have been handed a bigger defeat somewhere because they brought Thrawn in.
Right.
I know it's hard to do that, and that's the reason why they sparingly used Vader, because if you have them escape Vader too many times, then it diminishes who Vader is and how powerful he is.
Right.
I just think they should have had and I know they were about to lose, and then, some idiot admiral just disobeyed Thrawn's orders and, cost them the battle. And, okay, so it's not on Thrawn, but it's still kind of a cheap cop-out. I just think they really should have gotten their ass handed to them and then found ships elsewhere. All of a sudden the Mon Calamari are in the fight, and here comes all these great freaking, like Home One and all these amazing ships that the Mon Cal built.
Right.
But I just thought that was not too much, but a slight bit of a cop-out.
Yeah, I can understand that. I wouldn't necessarily disagree. But then again, there's only so many times you can push them to the very brink where they're about to be destroyed and then have them come back, but like you said, it diminishes the power of the villains and stuff. And we were so excited to finally have Thrawn, be part of the canon, that he's involved in. He was great all season. Very much the chess player, the tactician. Yeah. I loved when What's-His-Face was finally exposed as being a spy, and, they had to get him to escape. But, Thrawn pretty much knew.
I called that Agent Kallus was going to turn to the Rebels in Season 1. I'm just saying that right now. I called it on this show, Season 1, that Kallus would end up a Rebel.
Hey, I didn't disagree with you.
By that.
Yeah. Hey, you're pretty smart as a fanboy. You might have a future at this.
Maybe, you never know.
But no. I mean, I liked how Thrawn really toyed with him on that. I mean, he knew it. He used him as bait, set the trap. And that's what makes Thrawn a great character. But I'm also glad that Kallus got to escape. I thought, it would have been kind of a cop out if he, went down or whatever, unless it was some huge sacrifice, like a Rogue One moment or something like that, which could still very well be. I mean, we're getting to that point with the Rebels, with Star Wars Rebels. So I can't say for one thing. I can't say for sure if he actually makes it out, of this alive.
We know two characters make it out alive. We know that Hera makes it out alive, and we know that Chopper makes it out alive because they were both in Rogue. If you were paying attention,
right?
That's it. So, everybody else is fair game.
Yeah. My biggest complaint of this entire season was we don't know anything about Ahsoka. And after the way that you ended season 2, which was literally the best way to end a season, okay, so far.
Yeah.
We just don't know. And I understand that having her in there with Thrawn and all that, you have to have your big villain and you have to have these characters go on, and she's not really part of the team, and it needs to be much more about Kanan and Ezra. I understand that. It's just there was no hint, nothing. We still don't know. We've gone an entire year without knowing anything, and I want to know what her story is. I want to know. Her story has been so great in Star Wars Rebels, especially when she finally fought Vader.
Well, I think, and I'm going to have to bring that. I think they're going to have to bring that to conclusion in season 4 because, something's going to have to happen, and I expect a lot of these characters to die. And, I think the reason why they kept her away is because they didn't use a lot of Force users as villains in this one other than Maul. And so if there were no Force users, there were no reason to bring her in because she would have been, to borrow from MMO phrasing, she would be OP. She'd be overpowered. She could take these guys out.
Right.
So it had to be them versus, a more even, fair play. So I understand why she wasn't there. But I think with next year being the end of the series, I think you have to bring her back. And I think Vader will probably be back, God willing. They've been proactive, and they've already recorded James Earl Jones' dialogue so he doesn't die before he can do it, because lately people have been dropping like flies. So, Dave Filoni, if you haven't done that already, this is my personal plea to you. Get your scripts to James Earl Jones pronto. You've already built him his studio in his house. You can get them done. But, yeah. And please bring back Sam Witwer as the Emperor, because that's the only person who's only had one line in this whole 3 series is the Emperor. He's only had one line, and it was voiced by Sam Witwer, and he did a phenomenal job. For those who don't know, Sam Witwer was Force Unleashed. He was he does the voice of Maul on both the Clone Wars and Rebels. So he was in Being Human on Sci-Fi, the American version. He is a huge Star Wars fan, and he is a phenomenal voice actor. And please bring the Emperor into this so we can have more Sam Witwer, because frankly, he freaking earned it.
Right. Oh, no, don't disagree with that either. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't think Ahsoka's story can end like right there unless you plan on introducing her somehow within this trilogy, like she's lived all these years. And I want to know what her story is. I want to know how she connects. I want to know if her story really is just the Clone Wars up to this point, and then Luke doesn't meet her or what. And the same thing with Kanan and Ezra. But I wouldn't doubt that Kanan and Ezra, I honestly wouldn't doubt one way or another that they die. And I don't want to see that happen, but at the same time, I think that also has to serve the story of why it's important for Luke to, be the only Jedi and be very important and stuff like that. So I think there's going to be a huge sacrifice somehow, some way of something, or they become one with the Force. There's got to be some kind of major plot point there. But yeah, it's just we've got to know more about her. So let's get to talking about really probably the best moment of Star Wars Rebels Season 3. Darth Maul's end at Obi-Wan Kenobi's hands.
Yeah,
I mean,
what I love about that is just when the fight finally happens, Obi-Wan does the flourish with the saber over his head with the 2 fingers held out like he did in like he was famous for in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. But then he brought the blade down to a 2-handed stance like you would in Kendo, like older Obi-Wan did in A New Hope. And so it was kind of a transitioning from the Obi-Wan we knew in the prequels to the Obi-Wan we remember in the originals. And it was just a really poignant moment, and I really dug it. My only complaint about it, and I understand why they did it, but the only complaint about it is how short the fight was.
Yeah. There wasn't some long, drawn-out lightsaber duel, and it should have been. But again, I understand why they did what they did.
Because they were Obi-Wan as a person whose power was on the rise, and Maul, who was a broken man whose power was on the decline.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, because let's face it, you knew it was going to be a short fight though, because a blind Kanan took out, defeated Maul at the season 2 finale. So you knew it wasn't going to be a fight, because Kanan's got a long way to go before he becomes anywhere near Obi-Wan back in the trilogy, let alone Obi-Wan now. So, you knew it was going to be a short fight, but damn, did he whoop his ass?
Well,
I mean, it was gold.
Yeah. But I liked how it brought everything full circle. I'd like to see one more appearance by Obi-Wan, in this series, because, he knew Ezra. Obviously, he's been keeping up with stuff that's been, going on. Nothing really has gotten by him. So, I mean, how is he connected to these people anymore, beyond just what happened? Because, I mean, Obi-Wan's story really is just about sitting and waiting and for the right time, that moment. And, I mean, it was a very heartwarming scene of him off into the distance with, Luke running across, and you hear Aunt Beru calling his name.
That was great.
Yeah, the moment is almost here. We're almost ready. That's what they're getting at. And like I said, it just was the best episode.
Probably the best episode of the series. And actually, this series had another...
no, I won't call it the best episode of the series. I think the end of season 2, the season finale really is the best.
Well, and honestly, I'll tell you what one of my favorites is. Yeah, the end of season 2, because there's all that fanboy service in there. But from a storytelling perspective, my favorite episode of the series was episode 15 of this year's, was Trials of the Darksaber, where Kanan was training Sabine on how to use the saber. Just because it had more development in 22 minutes than any other episode ever. It focused on her and her internal struggles, and it really gave you an idea, and it gave you a background in where she's coming from, and now you understand everything about Sabine much better than you did beforehand, and all of a sudden she went from this quirky little female spunky Mandalorian fighter who liked to tag shit with graffiti to a fully fleshed out character with motives and feelings and history, and it really took her character to another level. So that was one of my favorites of the season.
Yeah, no, I agree. They definitely her overall story arc, was probably the best in season 3. I mean, we pretty much know kind of what's happening with Kanan and Ezra. Yes, Ezra is becoming, a Jedi. He's becoming comfortable with his powers and everything, and he's getting there. And Kanan is becoming more one with the Force and as studying and being blind, but I think it's what her. But we know what that path is. That's the common path of all Jedi. In Star Wars, it's nothing new. But to have her story, kind of develop as with this, especially with introducing the Darksabers, with the Mandalorians, I have so many more questions about her background and how she fits in this. I mean, is she going to make it out alive, or because there is that fan theory out there that Rey is Sabine and Ezra's kid. I don't think that's actually true, but
yeah, that would be a little off on the time frame, but
yeah, I think that's kind of least likely. But one of the theories that I do like about Rey's parentage is that she really is a Kenobi, that she's the granddaughter. That it's
that she's the granddaughter of Kenobi and Sabine, or not? It was
The Mandalorian. Yeah.
I forget her name.
So,
but
right. And I think that kind of makes it, brings everything a little bit more full circle too. But it brings up more with the Mandalorians and, how they connect to the Force throughout this story. So,
what I love about it is she actually made me like Mandalorians.
Yeah.
After my professed hatred for Karen Travesty's writings.
Well, I don't think she'll be writing any more Star Wars books.
Thank God. Moving on.
I know. Yeah. Season 3 ended great. It did. Obviously, it's hard to compete with how they ended season 2 and stuff, but we got a 4-minute trailer released at celebration of what season 4 is, and to me, season 4 looks so much more like an expanded version of Rogue One, and really dealing with where the rebellion is going. And how all of these, characters are really connected. So it's one thing that I would like to see is I'd like to see everybody kind of make one more appearance and how they're connected to this crew, to the Ghost crew, before people meet their end. They're not all going to make it out, and I think that's kind of obvious.
Right, but can we get an episode that focuses on Hondo and Lando working together with Ezra?
Right.
Because I want the Hondo and Lando together in an episode because that'll be fantastic. Because Hondo is one of my favorite characters from the Clone Wars. He's hilarious. One of his best lines in Rebels is when Ezra tells him, "Oh, there was going to be no reward. There was going to be no money anyway," and he goes, "You've double-crossed me. I'm so proud of you."
Yeah.
So I would love those two to work with Ezra in an episode. I think that would be phenomenal.
Yeah. There is. Let me pull it. But there was something that I wanted to read to kind of connect this. We were talking about, because we've been talking when we did our review on Rogue One. We all said it was pretty much the Alamo story of the Star Wars universe. But I honestly think that carries more on into Star Wars Rebels. So give me just 1 second. I want to pull something that I wanted to read that I think is very fitting of this and to bring Star Wars full circle. So give me 1 minute. I'll be right back.
Okay, so while he's doing that, I'm going to put in a quick advertisement from my beer blog called Better Ales and Lagers. You can find me on the That Nerd Show YouTube page. I discuss craft beer, bringing up the styles, and letting you guys know about the history of those styles. We broadcasted from the Thirsty Growler this week. We're going to be at the Best Little Brew Fest in Texas next week. We're also going to be at Peticolas Brewery and Texas Ale Project in the future. So give us a look up. Find me at @better_ales on Twitter or at Better Ales and Lagers on Facebook. Thank you.
All right. Actually, that was a little bit of a commercial break. I lied to our audience. We had one little commercial break, but we needed to tell you.
Yeah, but it was an impromptu.
It
was more of something we do. So there you go.
Right. I won't read the entire thing, but this is actually the best. If you've ever read the novelization of the first Star Wars movie, this is actually the end of it. So I'll just read these last paragraphs and make my point. But a small number of systems rebelled at those new outrages, declaring themselves opposed to the New Order. They began the great battle to restore the Old Republic. From the beginning, they were vastly outnumbered by the systems held in thrall by the Emperor. In those first dark days, it seemed certain that the bright flame of resistance would be extinguished before it could cast the light of new truth across a galaxy of oppressed and beaten peoples. And it's what they said it was from the first saga of the Journal of the Wills, which I'm actually going to make a point about that a little bit later. But the end of that passage is their kind of made-up quote for Princess Leia. They were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Naturally, they became heroes. And while I understand that all of that prologue for the novelization written by Alan Dean Foster really was trying to set up what we knew of the rebellion at that time for the first movie, the more that we do in the Star Wars universe, the more that I think that really better describes the Star Wars Rebels and up to Rogue One and everybody who had a part that really does sacrifice themselves. And I think it's kind of an interesting point that you have all of these people that were brought together for the same thing, and like her quote, they were in the wrong place, the wrong time, so naturally they become heroes. I also think that's a metaphor that here are these people that are all going to die. They're not going to make it out. But there's a reason that they have to, because once Luke Skywalker takes that first step into his path to become a Jedi, to do everything, and starts off with the original Star Wars trilogy, it's that new clear-cut point of this is the new story. He is the new savior. He is the one that's going to bring down the Emperor and Vader and everything else. And everybody else is just a supporting cast. So, like I said, I wanted to read that to our audience in case you didn't really need that. And I do encourage people, if you've never read the original novelization of Star Wars: A New Hope, you should go back and do it. It's a great, great book. In fact, you should read all three of them for the original trilogy, because there's a lot more details in there that the movies obviously didn't cover. The same with the Force Awakens novelization. But yeah, I feel like most people are. It's going to be the kind of that Rogue One moment with everybody at the end of season 4. And I think fans should start embracing themselves for that. So,
probably.
Yeah, hate to say it, but that's. So anyway, can't wait for season 4. It's going to be great. A lot happened this past year, but we have a lot of expectations, and the main one is that it ends on a very good note, or the way that it absolutely should end. And I was commenting with our blogger, Allison, her and her husband finally got around to seeing Rogue One. They're busy raising kids and stuff, so. But we were commenting on the fact that, there was no great love story between Diego Luna's character and Jen Erso. Just to the very end, they had that mutual respect as soldiers in combat, and they didn't try to pull out some romance up until, they die. And it was just these heartfelt moments of respect more than anything else. I hope that they take that with season 4 of Rebels, that there isn't any forced romance that doesn't really need to be, that you just let these characters fight to the bitter end and be the heroes that they're going to be for this great cause that will eventually lead into, the original Star Wars trilogy. So that's just my one big hope. Okay, and for Joshua, if you haven't seen all of Star Wars Rebels, there you go. Start binge watching.
Thank you.
That's your task.
You need to PM me.
Yeah. All right. We're going to start with the first thing because we didn't really get the chance to talk about it, and I understand we're kind of 2 months late, but we haven't really had any discussion about the Jedi or the Last Jedi trailer that was released in April. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Brendan. What did you think of it? Is there anything does it bring any questions for you, or was it just didn't really do anything?
So all right, I have very strong feelings on this trailer, and mainly due to the death of Princess Leia. Because how are they going to transition from her being like one of the main heroines of Episode 9 to her not being there? So I'm very worried about that, and I have no doubt they'll do it in a respectful way. I'm just worried that it'll be one conducive to storytelling. The other thing is, please, 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 pretty please with a cherry on top, do not make Luke go dark. Okay? We don't need every goddamn Skywalker to go dark, okay? Can we just have a recessive gene where frickin' Luke goes, I'm not going to be that douchebag? Because, look, one of my least favorite story tropes in all of storytelling is let's have the good guy go bad because it'll be different. No, you're just making everybody pissed off at the good guy, and it's nobody really wants to watch that. I didn't like it, and I hate it when they make the heroes fight each other. That's why Civil War is one of my least favorite Marvel stories. I loathe the whole concept, and it just to me is going to be really lazy if they do that. Now, if they're saying if the whole foreshadowing of it's time for the Jedi to end means that it means that the Jedi have, the universe has grown beyond the Jedi and the Sith, and it's time for something new to be born, then that's fine. I'm okay with that. Because, frankly, if you go back and include the old expanded universe, which I know is no longer canon, hey, the Jedi and the Sith have been going at it for a couple of millennia now.
Yeah.
So if somebody had that, progressive thought of, hey, maybe we should try something different instead of doing the same shit over and over again, I'm cool with that. That I'm okay with. But if you just make, if you just go Darth Luke, I will get up in the middle of the theater and yell, fuck you.
Okay.
Brandon, can I interject real quick? Brandon, can I interject?
Theater, I'm going to get up in the middle of the theater and yell, fuck you, and walk out.
As long as you don't yell bomb, you'll be okay.
So, yeah. So that is my one thing on that trailer. So I'm actually, of the trailer, the most interesting things to me are going to be not so much Rey's training with Luke, because we saw that with Luke training with Yoda.
Right.
And I'm assuming it's going to be a similar montage, but to me the more interesting storylines of the film are going to be what do they do with Leia, especially since she's dealing with the aftermath of the fact that her son just killed her husband, and how does Diego Luna's character Poe Dameron deal with the loss of his X-wing, because fighter pilots are they're a touchy bunch.
Right.
And
Oscar Isaac's character, yeah.
And is really is Finn just really a soldier, or is there possibly a Jedi in the making there too once he gets through his, because for a while there he held his own against Kylo Ren with the saber. So is there more to him than that they've let on as well? So to me, those are the three most interesting storylines going through, because we know Luke is going to train Rey, and we know Rey is probably going to run off to face danger way too soon, just like Luke did, and Luke's going to sit there and kind of sigh and go, damn it, Yoda, now I know how you felt. But, I think those three are the most interesting storylines. And also, can we give Chewie something to do? Because, really, his best friend and life companion just died. Can we give him some people to just, I want to see Chewie go Mad Claw. And for those of you who don't know, all right, if you're not into the series or the comics or the video games, and where they discuss it most is the original Knights of the Old Republic video game, is Wookiees use their claws for tools, not weapons. So when one snaps and uses the claws for a weapon, they're called Mad Claw and they're ostracized from Wookiee society. So that's one thing I was really disappointed. I loved how he started kicking Stormtroopers' ass when he saw Han get killed, but I really wish he had just dropped the bowcaster and gone Mad Claw and started just clubbing people over the railing. And it would have only been, and I've said it before, it would have only been fan service to Uber fans like me, but damn it, it would have been really cool. And so I hope they give him a chance to do that in Episode 8. I hope, he's stuck between, there's 100 stormtroopers between him and Kylo Ren, and he just goes Mad Claw on them and starts ripping them to pieces, and Kylo Ren goes, fuck this, I'm out of here.
Well, there was a scene that was deleted from the Force Awakens when the head of the scrap guy, Uga Plan, or whatever his name is, the Simon Pegg, the guy that Simon Pegg was playing, he shows up at Maze's castle and confronts Rey, and Chewie rips his arm off. So, I think we got that, we just didn't get it as part of the film. But yeah, it would be very nice to actually have that. This is my takeaway from the trailer. I think you're right about Leia. There's got to be, and I know she's very important to what's going on. I also think that they are dealing with. It's been talked about that she's going to get injured, and They're also dealing with bureaucracy. Laura Dern's character is some kind of vice admiral or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, I don't want Luke to totally go the dark side or anything like that. But I think a lot of what The Last Jedi, I mean, it is centered around him and trying to answer questions about what he's been doing for 30 years or 20 or whatever, however when he disappeared. Okay. And a lot about, exploring the Jedi history. I think a lot of what they're going to build into that canon is, here you got this, pretty much The Last Jedi, everybody's gone, it's up to him to keep the legacy. So the best way to do it is to go and, look up the history, to put it it's a one-man task of putting it back together, okay? Hence the original finding of the first Jedi Temple. But I think for him it is about finding, the same way we do with any religious text. It's, this is what I've been taught, but I have questions, or maybe there's too much doctrine, and him finding out that it's not perfect. And like you said, you're dealing with the same old that's happened for 2 millennia, with some minor changes here and there, like the Sith going to the rule of 2. Okay. But I think for him, hence why we have this, it's about him finding out some truth that he doesn't agree with, and that's why we get that last line, all I know is it's time for the Jedi to end. So I think that there is a little bit of exploration of the dark side, in trying to find that balance. That I'm okay with. But him becoming some evil dude and basically turning out like Dad and trying to rule the galaxy, no, you're right. That's lazy writing. But I think that, you have this, we never really talk about it so much about what happens after Return of the Jedi. We know a little bit about Luke through the expanded universe, what he did, obviously bringing back a Jedi Academy, and, he has a son, marries Mara Jade, and who used to be an assassin for the Emperor. But in understanding the full Jedi history and kind of being the keeper of that, that's what he is now. So I think there's a lot more truth that has to be fleshed out, or that he finds out, and that changes the dynamic of how he's going to train Rey. And I think you already see that with his opening narration, that, there's the light, there's the dark balance, but it's so much bigger. So, because we heard similar things when Yoda's training Luke, but we don't hear it in quite that same way. So that's what I want to know. That's what I'm keen to finally understand, is what that is all about, and what he has fully come to realize. Whether it's arguing with Yoda Force Ghosts, or reading the old journals, or reading that maybe even the Jedi got corrupted, maybe that Anakin made a point that the Jedi had corruption, they weren't absolutely perfect, and that's partly what drove him to the dark side as well, and trying to balance all that and reconcile all of that knowledge. And you don't have anybody with you that you can talk to or teach you or takes it. You're basically a one-man shop in this universe trying to reconcile everything and decide what to do until an apprentice comes along. And how do you teach that apprentice? The same way you were taught, the same rigid rules of the Jedi, or something new? So, like I said, that's my big thing. Everything else is just kind of a supporting story about what's going on, very much like Empire Strikes Back. You're going to have a great adventure with Finn and his new friend and, stuff like that. But really, it's all about, Luke and Rey. And you made a comment, Brendan, about Rey rushing off too early to go fight Kylo Ren and, not knowing enough. I honestly don't think he stays there. I think he goes off. I mean, he's done what he's done. He's trained, and they have to go off, and that's where the real adventure begins.
I mean, I agree with you. I said I agree with you. He will too. I just think he's going to have that moment where he looks up and goes, "All right, sorry."
Yeah. Like a parent with a child, like, okay, yeah, my dad was right. I get that.
Much, yeah.
So, I thought the trailer was a good trailer. Definitely has us interested. It did exactly what The Force Awakens did with the trailer they released, months in advance. But there's a lot more that we, need to know, and that's the main thing. But here's the other problem I have. I get that Luke is kind of like a hermit and, doing his exploration and has his little walking stick as people are doing in his own kind of Jedi uniform. But if you're going to have an entire movie where he doesn't get to do a lightsaber duel, that's my moment of standing up and saying, fuck you, I'm out of here. Because you teased me with that with The Force Awakens, and he didn't even say a goddamn thing. And now I have to sit through another movie, and Luke's not going to duel?
Yeah, that would be bad.
The other... well, obviously you won't see it in this movie, but you know what I would actually really like to see? For Episode 9, to take it a bit further, I want to actually see Rey constructing her own lightsaber as that rite of passage for a Jedi, and actually not deleting the scene.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
The scene that got cut out of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. I think that's very poignant to that mythology, and I mean it's great that the Luke's old lightsaber or Anakin's and all that, but that's not really, that's Anakin's unique side, where the one that he kind of puts together at first, or the one that, I mean, it's not really like hers. It's just a connection more than anything else. So, but that, everything else I think will be great.
But, Luke still has his green saber, so they better show him dueling her and sparring her in training.
Oh, God, yeah. I'm like, I don't want to see you. Fine, we'll get to the nostalgia of Empire Strikes Back of you balancing rocks and the way they did that trailer, the opening scene was great, and then just the slow motion of her using the Force and the rocks and everything. I loved it. It was fantastic. But we waited so long to bring Luke full circle as being the Jedi Master, and we wanted that at least a little bit in The Force Awakens, and we didn't really get it. You have to do everything. I know this is about Rey's journey, but you have to service the fans with that Luke is going to fight, which begs the bigger question. Does he, especially with Carrie Fisher gone, are they actually going to kill his character? Is he going to? I'm like, there has to be one legacy character that continues beyond this trilogy. So I'm like, I don't think you can sacrifice. I think part of the story really is her rescuing him as well from being a hermit, that it's okay to do this again. You didn't necessarily fail, but let's do this again. Whatever this new mythology is, let's go and do it together. So, one question: do you think we're actually going to learn about her parents in this movie, or are they going to make us wait till Episode 9?
I believe they confirmed that we are.
Okay. I thought that was still kind of a rumor.
Okay. I'll have to double check on that. I'll double check on that for next week, but I thought they had confirmed that we were going to learn that. So.
I know. You know what, Joshua? We've never actually asked you. We've talked about it over the last few years, but do you have a theory on who Rey's parents are?
Well, I kind of do, yeah.
All right, I want to hear your theory.
Well, and that's really all it is. I'm still of the mind that I think Luke is her dad.
The theory that she is truly a Skywalker?
I think she is in the genetics only because, as I understand it, and bear in mind, I haven't seen the extended universe. I've only seen the 6 chapters that were movies. As far as I can tell, Anakin Skywalker is the only character that we've seen thus far, even surpassing Luke, who had the highest midichlorian count in their biology. So it goes to stand that because we haven't really been introduced to any other characters with as high, or at least noticeably so, of said factor, that's what leads me to believe that I think Luke is her old man.
Well, the only reason why she might be a Skywalker. In the prequels, Padme wore one bun. In the original, Leia wore two buns. In The Force Awakens, if you'll notice, Rey was wearing three buns on the back of her head.
Yeah,
I would never pick that up.
That's a good catch.
One bun, two buns. Mother. Well, not daughter, but aunt maybe. So.
Right.
Well, but related. There's still that theory floating around that she is a Solo too, and I'm like, because she made a comment in an interview last year or Daisy Ridley did that. Well, I thought it was kind of obvious who my parents were.
Yeah. and the reason
which
why
I don't
it could
know.
Be is if they switched it to where they weren't twins, but she was the younger daughter of Kylo Ren, or not the younger daughter, younger sister of Kylo Ren, and not his twin, and they hid her after he went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah.
Well, here's another question I have. So far, Anakin is the only character in the story who seems to have come by through, I guess the word for it is spontaneous generation. In what's the movie? Phantom Menace.
In the Force.
Well, yeah, and it's the fact that it's like Anakin was the only child to be born thus far without a father needing to be there.
Right.
The way his mother describes it just happened one day. Voila. Okay, well, that's Virgin Mary parable if you really want to, break George Lucas down to his symbolic brass tacks. And I would say the same thing goes back to the question you brought up earlier, Brendan, about, please, God, don't let Luke go dark on us like all the rest of his fucking ancestors. And I tend to agree with you there as far as the lack of originality in storytelling. But I think if he does do that, it's yet another George Lucas re-referencing of Christianity because Christ had to go through hell to get back to heaven.
Right.
And so that's the only thing I would look out for on that. But in answer to your question, though, I do think she's a Skywalker.
If they bring back midichlorians, I'm out. I'm like, just no.
Yeah, there's some things that should just be left a mystery. You don't have to explain everything. That's the whole point of mythology.
Well, there is another theory floating around which I actually kind of like about that. Snoke is a lot older than all of this and has been around since the rise and the fall and all of that, and now he has kind of. I mean, even if he isn't Darth Plagueis, who didn't really die or conquer death, doesn't matter. But there is a theory that he was the one that's kind of the architect of this, of manipulating the Force to create a child that would be powerful, hence Anakin, all the way through something like this. I think it's a neat idea. And, part of that is there's supposed to be a scene where he's talking, when Luke finally confronts him, and he explains, the entire truth, what really happened, but the other one that I think is fascinating is that she really isn't related to anybody, that there is this, if we deal with this mythical force, not really mentioning midichlorians, but something that is born of the Force itself, so powerful or whatever, that, you deal with themes of reincarnation, that eventually it does come back around, hence why there is that tree force thing going on that they keep talking about in The Last Jedi, that she really is that kind of second coming. So you do get your Christ motif with it, but that's who she is.
So my favorite theory that I don't think is true, but I just think it would be cool if it was, is that Snoke is actually Mace Windu, and he survived the fall, and it just drove him mad because he was always one step away from the dark side anyway because of his lightsaber
right.
fighting style. So I don't think it's true, but I think it would be cool if it was.
It would be interesting. And then you finally, but then again, if that happened too, I mean, nothing against Andy Serkis, but how do you not have Samuel L. Jackson come back and voice him?
Right.
I don't know. There was one thing that I want to read that's been floating out there, and it was mentioned in the Force Awakens novelization that came out 2 years ago. That we keep asking all these questions about what did Luke really stumble upon? What is he obviously has these journals and ancient texts and all that of the Jedi, and the little scene where it's a gloved hand going over it. But this is actually a passage from the Journal of Wills that keeps getting mentioned. Which is basically an ancient Jedi text. But this is the little poem. First comes the day, then comes the night. After the darkness shines through the light. The difference, they say, is only made right by the resolving of gray through refined Jedi sight. Which I think lends to kind of what he is talking about in the trailer and teaching her. My guess is that that's the main story with Luke. It's about him kind of resolving what he has learned and putting it all together, and that's why the Jedi have to end. The original order. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's about him fulfilling the original prophecy of all along about bringing balance to the Force.
Right. So that's what I'm absolutely just most excited about. More than anything else. So we'll see. Now, real quick, we wanted to mention a couple of other things about Star Wars news. Apparently, Episode 9 will start shooting January of next year, and they're actually going to have it done in time for May release of 2019.
Right, so we're only going to have 6 months between the Han Solo movie and the Episode 9.
No, actually a year, because the Han Solo movie is supposed to be releasing May of next year.
Oh, really? So it's 6 months between Episode 8 and Han Solo. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think they're doing just enough now to get back to the May releases. But I wanted to get to the Han Solo movie. I found this interesting. I mean, I'm excited about the Han Solo movie. I think they're definitely giving the actor the look of a younger Han Solo, which is great. But the story of the movie is spanning over 7 years. So it isn't just this quick little niche in time of his life. It really is about, I guess, him being young, going off to the Imperial Academy, everything else, battles, his mentors, becoming a smuggler, getting to that point of when we are first, truly introduced to Han Solo.
Can we please have a 3?
A what?
Can we please have a 3-hour movie? Because Star Wars fans will sit through it. Don't rush through 7 years. Give us 3.5 hours. I'm all set for a Lord of the Rings here.
Oh yeah, I agree. There is nothing wrong with that. Hey, we all sat through 3-hour Hobbit movies.
Yeah.
I think we will. But yeah, I mean, for everything that I'm hearing, I'm actually more excited about the Han Solo movie. It looks like that they're Go ahead.
And I hope it's really good. I hope it does phenomenally well, because if it does, then they're going to have key stories that did incredibly well with Rogue One and the Han Solo movie, and then we will get more going forward.
Exactly. But unfortunately for 2020, they have settled on doing a Boba Fett movie, which just who cares?
Yeah,
stop.
Well, Boba Fett fanboys that one will succeed because there's enough Boba Fett fanboys out there.
I know, and I mean we'll go see it, but I'm not that excited about it at this point. When are you finally going to get off your ass and make some Obi-Wan movies? I want Obi-Wan stories. And
or give
Ewan
me
McGregor,
who's the right age to play it now, or
yeah,
give me Knights of the Old Republic story, Either one. I'm good with those two.
Well,
okay, I got
do
a story
both.
for y'all. I got a story for y'all, though. How about a Yoda origin story?
I'll take that.
I wouldn't, actually, and I'll tell you why. Because the best about Yoda, the best decision that Lucas has ever made is that he has never identified Yoda's species. He's left it a mystery. And I don't want to know too much about Yoda's origin. I will take a young Yoda Jedi Knight story, but I don't want to know where Yoda comes from. I don't want to know his species. I don't want to know how they're so powerful in the Force. I want some mystery left in Star Wars.
No, I'm agreeing with you in terms of the young Yoda Knight. That's what I was talking about.
That would be fine. I mean, I don't know what is in that time frame that we could do, but I mean, if they came up with a good story, I'd be cool with it.
Yeah.
Well, the Knights of the Old Republic is what I really, really want.
Or even if it's not 3,000-year-old Knights of the Old Republic Mandalorian Wars, even if it's not that storyline, can we just get the Darth Bane story where the big Sith wars between the Jedi and Sith army and how Darth Bane eliminated the entire Sith Order and created the Rule of Two, because that is canon? So can we get that story? We can still get our big Braveheart-style lightsaber battles.
The thing is, I mean, they've already said that they're going to keep doing Star Wars movies until the end of time, and I'm like, well, then you have so many different ways to go, and I'm okay with introducing new stories that are in canon and of characters that we've never heard about. I mean, after all, when Episode 1 came out, and I've still got it, they have like a Star Wars timeline, and they've done a couple of them now. Obviously updating more information once they could do that with the Anakin story, but there's so much more that you can do, okay? And I very seriously doubt that you've introduced all of these new characters. I doubt that you're not, are you telling me that this trilogy here, Episode 1 through 9, that's it? You're not going to continue what happens to these characters or another generation? Bullshit.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen. Besides, in the book, it's Rey and Poe Dameron that have a moment and start having feelings for each other, and that's what they're trying to do. I never thought that it would be like Finn and Rey. I think they have set up the love interest for Finn with this movie. So, anyway, we'll obviously be talking more about Star Wars, but we've got to start to close out this show, so we want to do a couple of things. Getting back to what you should be streaming, I'm going to start it off by saying Riverdale, which hit Netflix, and if you didn't watch it on the CW, you should check it out. And I blame Rob Irvin of Clubhouse Podcast and a friend of our show for keep talking about this show. And finally one day I decided to binge watch it, and I couldn't put it down. It was dark and creepy enough. It's basically the movie Brick with the Archie characters mixed in with, well, that's really the best description I get, and it was actually good. And it's 13 episodes, so there you go. Joshua, do you have a quick thing that you would recommend that people should be streaming?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and recommend one that I'm going to be writing a review for you on, Genius. Just in the few episodes that I've seen so far, I really appreciate the way Ron Howard's taken the subject matter, and Jeffrey Rush is nothing short of the brilliance that he usually brings to the screen. And the guy plays young Shakespeare, Johnny Flynn, also doing a bang-up job. So that's a great show, and anyone who can get their hands on Nat Geo, watch that stuff.
Okay. How about you, Brendan?
I'm going to go with sci-fi's triumphant return to actually putting good sci-fi on television and say go watch The Expanse.
There you go. They just dropped the last season on Netflix as well. All right, and we are running out of time, but I wanted to mention one great thing that happened in the new nerd universe. In case you did not know, today is the actual 35th anniversary of when E.T. was released in theaters, and we were introduced to that. I know, happened today. And Reese's Pieces became popular. So, and then, exactly. And then this Christmas will be the 35th anniversary of how the E.T. game brought down the video game industry. I'm just kidding. There were a lot of other problems, but, that game was not that good. So, all right. Join us each week for our summer season. Like I said, like we told you in the beginning, we'll be doing our E3 roundup next week about all the games that we're excited for. And we have a lot of other great themed shows planned until the middle of August when we're off again until the fall. So, everybody, thank you for listening. We are out of here. Say goodbye, guys.
Goodbye, guys.